Hey everyone, welcome to the Hazy Sports Podcast. I'm Jason Brown, as always, joined by my good friend and co-host Charlie Ashbury. Charlie, happy Family Day. How you doing today?
Pretty good. Happy Family Day to you too, Jason. And it's potential elimination day as well.
Yeah, it's a big day. Pretty exciting. I think we've definitely got the biggest Canada-Finland game matchup in history today.
I think so.
But yeah, we've got really tons of Four Nation reaction and things to cover. So why don't we jump right in? How are you liking the tournament so far?
You know what? Going in, I had very low expectations, and I've just been blown away at the effort, the aggressiveness. Like, I flipped on USA Finland, and one of the very first plays, Americans dump it in, and you could even see the Finnish defender thinking, "Oh, okay, I got time here. I'm just going to play this around." And I believe it was Brady that just came in and just steamrolled the guy. It kind of set the tone for the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. I was watching that first shift. I thought right away we're going to have our hands full when we play the Americans. If they're coming out with this kind of intensity against the Finns, you know they're going to bring it against Canada. Of course, we saw how that first 9 seconds went, which is crazy.
Chaos.
Before we jump into the U.S. game, yeah, I thought the same thing. I've loved every game. Every game's kind of a appointment viewing. I think one of the things I've liked the most about this, even compared to the Olympics, is because there's only 4 teams, every game matters. You're used to sort of having those cakewalks where you get a Norway or a Latvia game just to kind of get your feet wet. In this one, we're playing the Swedes with the first game, and then Americans game 2, there's really kind of no room for error.
No, and everyone's kind of underestimating Finland, but up until the penalty at the end of the second, Finland was kind of handling the U.S. like defensively anyways. They weren't creating a lot, but they were shutting them down. Like, I don't think this is going to be an easy afternoon for Canada.
Not at all. I'm more nervous for this Finland game than I've ever been for a Finland game. But honestly, I think with what's at stake, they could be almost playing anybody, and I'd be a little bit nervous about it. But yeah,
but I do agree with no cupcakes. It's you got to be on. Like, we could have easily lost to Sweden.
Yeah.
Like, Bennington was huge in that overtime. Like, we could technically be out right now.
That's crazy. And yeah, the first game though, like just kind of first impressions when we were sort of talking in our last episode of what this really means. We've never done the Four Nations before. How much are the players going to really care about it? And watching that first opening period, Canada against Sweden, I was still processing when that power play started, and it was McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon, Makar. I forget who else was on the ice there, but in my head, I was almost having a hard time watching the game because I was trying to process all of these players that were playing together. And then just as I was kind of thinking that, they scored that first goal, which was absolute beauty. And you kind of knew right then this was going to be a special tournament.
Yeah, it exceeded any expectations I had, that's for sure.
And you kind of didn't realize how much we missed this best on best. I didn't realize it had actually been 10 years since we've had this. And for me, it felt so satisfying to see all of Canada's best players finally on the ice together. It's almost like this generation's first time to really come together like that, where we're seeing peak McDavid, peak McKinnon, and then Crosby as that sort of leadership role. Not that he hasn't been in a leadership role before. Even the World Juniors, because all our best players you get a Bedard and he plays 1 year when he's 16 and then he doesn't play again. So it's always this kind of unsatisfying feeling where you never get to see, or at least for the last 10 years, haven't got to see Canada's best players all play together.
And I don't understand why we're not doing this. Like, this has to be a massive success, right? And this is 4 games in. Like, why aren't we doing this all the time?
No kidding. It has been awesome. And then when you contrast it to see what's going on with NBA All-Star Weekend, and you just couldn't give less of a shit about that. It's such a joke, and you see literally nobody cares about it. They're just trying to manufacture some sort of interest and excitement.
You got a G leaguer winning the dunk contest and then some college student winning the 3-point contest. Like, I'm not watching that crap. And
Yeah,
then you flip over and you got people punching the shit out of each other 9 seconds into it.
yeah, that's kind of one of the things that I've been wondering about is, are they going to make this an ongoing thing? I guess there's the Olympics next year, so they probably wouldn't do it next year, but it would be great if it became sort of a tradition in between the Olympics.
Yeah, I agree.
Whether they keep it to 4 nations or, the Czechs could probably make a good argument that they could compete with any of these teams as well.
Yeah, and Russia would be
Russia, of course. Yeah.
a good addition, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into the U.S. game because that was probably one of the better international hockey games that we've seen in a while.
And so right off the hop, the crowd's going insane. And we haven't even dropped the puck yet. And what do? They bring out George St. Pierre, which the irony of bringing out one of the greatest fighters in North America, sort of setting the stage for what would be I would say, got to be the most chaotic 9 seconds of international hockey of all time. Just bananas.
I was not expecting that at all, but I was loving it. I heard an interview with John Cooper afterwards, and I thought he put it pretty well. It was like not manufactured at all. It was an organic sort of explosion and almost an exhale of the lack of best on best competition for the last 10 years building up to that moment.
And one of the interesting things that I never really thought about until after was if that was IIHF rules, those guys are gone, right? The fighting rules. So I kept wondering why they kept focusing on its NHL rules, but that's a pretty huge thing because that would have never happened, right?
Yeah, good point. I even thought, obviously, I'm cheering for Canada, but I thought if I was an American fan, I would love this American team as well. You see the Kachuk brothers. That was, you don't want to cheer for them, but that was kind of a cool moment to see both of them go with their dad in the stands.
And that was great. And hats off to them for firing it up. But I will take Hagel, Bennett, and Parayko trade-off for Kachucks and JT Miller any day, right? Like, I don't think, as much as it got the crowd going, I don't think any momentum was gained there at all. And then we roll out our top line and we didn't score, but that could have changed everything right off the hop.
Yeah, you're right. It was kind of strategically not the smartest thing, and I'm not sure the intensity could have got any higher, but it was fun. It was entertainment at its best right there. And then shortly after, speaking of entertainment, that McDavid goal, I let out a primal scream from the basement, where I just almost uncontrolled, just feeling that emotion because the buildup and the intensity. And that was such a beautiful goal. That pass from Doughty, picks it up perfect and does a little fake to go backhand on that one.
So I did the same. I watch a lot of sports, either by myself or whatever, family in the room. And I'm pretty subdued most of the time. I can think of 3 times where I actually yelled. And one would be the Batista bat flip, the Kawhi Leonard shot, and when Josh Allen threw his 4th touchdown pass to Gabe Davis, and then this goal. I jumped right out of my seat and did a big clap. Yeah. And me and Ben gave a big high five. That was just beautiful. No daylight there and just roofs it. And then to see him pounding the glass, there was so much intensity in that first 6-7 minutes, and that just let the roof off that place. It was nuts. I couldn't imagine how loud it must have been there.
Oh man, that was an awesome moment. It just kind of gave me the chills of, obviously I've admired McDavid as a hockey player and just his talent. Having him on a team that I'm cheering for is being one of my guys is such a great feeling. To have him on the team and be able to cheer for him like that and have him deliver in a moment like that. Yeah, I just let go of scream and kind of compose myself. But yeah, it's funny when it's a good sports moment when just comes out of you without really even knowing what just happened.
And I still, like, I've been watching this guy his whole career, and I still can't believe that he can just fucking torch an NHL defenseman like he's standing still. Like, he just blows by the guy. And I know he was a little bit out of position, but like, it wasn't even close. He was just here and gone. Like, it blows my mind, the speed of that guy.
Yeah, it's interesting because you kind of get a lot of the comparisons between McKinnon and McDavid, and they are both amazing. But seeing them on the ice at the same time, I think it's more and more obvious to me that, McDavid is just on a level on his own. I mean, straight ahead speed, they're, I guess, probably pretty close, but the acceleration when McDavid gets the puck and I mean, I'm not saying anything that everybody knows how good he is, but seeing it on this stage is just like a memorable experience.
It's not like you're playing the Anaheim Ducks here. You're playing, the best defenseman that the league has to offer, and you're still torching him. But that said, McAvoy definitely got his revenge not too long after. That was crazy. Couple just Scott Stevens-esque hip check and body check.
Yeah, I was impressed. I, again, knew he was good, but, I guess you don't, when there's so many teams you're following in the NHL, you don't necessarily get a close look or where you're paying attention to a guy like that. And he's taken it to another level. But yeah, those were some big hits. I think, unfortunately, that McDavid moment was probably the highlight or the peak moment of the game for Canadian fans. Like, there was an entertaining game all around, but things kind of tightened up a little bit after that.
Yeah. Well, Gensel scores what I don't like to criticize goalies because I think it's probably the toughest job in all of sports other than maybe NFL quarterback. But that was a pretty soft one. I don't know what happened. If, maybe just out of position, but you got to have that one. And that kind of took the wind out of the sails a little bit.
Yeah, you could kind of deflated the arena for sure. He did make some great saves, I thought, 100%. Throughout the rest of the game, but that's a tough one for sure.
Yeah. And then we picked up the other bad part of the first period was we got the power play late, but our top line was on for a long stretch before that. So then we were kind of forced to put out second unit. Not like it's a horrible second unit, but I think had that timing worked out a little better, we may have had a chance to at least go in with the lead. But unfortunately, the line changes didn't work in our favor. And we got out of the first at 1-1. But I was feeling pretty good. I didn't think the US looked too dangerous. Like, I'll give a lot of props to their defense because it was incredible, but our defense was playing just as well. Like, I don't remember too many big chances that they had.
Yeah, I thought Harley was one of the nice surprises for Canada, stepping in for Makar.
In a tough spot too, right?
Yeah, I thought he played really well.
And he's big and he moved the puck well. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if they keep him in the lineup and a guy like Sanheim or something gets pulled out now.
And another guy on D that I thought has played pretty well this tournament is Doughty. And he's obviously got a pretty good career, pretty good legacy already. But I think one of the things I love about these types of tournaments is it takes guys like Doughty and even Crosby that maybe have lost a step in from their haven't been playing on contenders in the NHL, so you kind of forget how much raw talent they have, and then you put them in around great talent, and you sort of see this almost like a resurgence of their prime coming back, and you see a guy like Doughty really thriving here when you kind of put him back in amongst this talent. He was a guy that was on the bubble to whether he was. Didn't he end up?
Yeah, he only got in because of the injury for Peter Angelo.
Right.
He was their next man up until that injury happened, and then obviously Theodore going down too. But yeah, you're right. Once you see these guys, when the skill level goes up a notch, you realize how friggin' good these guys can be if they're surrounded by top-notch players.
It kind of reminds me of Salt Lake City when Lemieux came back for that, and he was basically on the exiting his career. And he just had that presence on the ice that just gave Canada that confidence and was clutch and just sort of I noticed it the same even watching Sweden play with Carlson, kind of seeing shades of his prime come back out, but yeah, so that's always a great part of the game. Any other sort of things jump out at you from the game, players you thought played well or were a little disappointed in?
From the US side, like the defense was incredible. Like other than we had a power play and there was a McDavid slot chance, I don't remember any high danger chances at all. And two guys, Brock Faber and Jacob Slavin, almost 26 minutes apiece, both were a +3. Like at that level and that much ice time against, you're going against the top guys they were just rock solid. I was really impressed by that. It made for a little less entertaining game, but if that's what you got to do to win, that's what you got to do to win.
Yeah, I agree. One guy on the U.S. side I was a little surprised was a little quieter than I expected was Matthews. We didn't really see a ton of scoring chances from him as the captain and the dominant goal scorer on the team.
I don't want to beat a dead horse. When the games get tough, old Matthews and Mitchie were kind of invisible out there.
Yeah, that's another note I had written down is Mitch he just disappears in these big games. He doesn't want any of the smoke, as they say.
He's not a guy who's gonna win you the puck, right? He's got to have the puck, or he's got to get someone to get him the puck. He's not gonna win you any battles.
And he just seems to. Yeah, sorry.
That said, I thought he did a great job on the penalty kill, but if he's going to be in our top 6, you need a little something more from that guy.
Yeah, personally, I'd rather see Marchand move up in the line. I don't know. Yeah, what are your thoughts there?
I thought he looked a little slow, and I don't know if that's because everybody else is just operating at 100 miles an hour, but at least he's going to do the dirty shit. Like, I'm an Oilers fan, obviously, and I thought a guy like Zach Hyman, although he's not the flashy name, he's going to win those battles out front, and he's going to go in the corners. Playing with McDavid, it might not have been a bad idea, but that's too late for that now.
Marner's looking like, even though he scored that overtime winner, again, that's 3-on-3 action. Killing a penalty, he's great. You give him lots of space and nobody being that physical with them, but you've seen it in the playoffs before. And really, all the Leafs, like Nylander hasn't really stepped up. Marner and Matthews not looking great in this tournament. So, the core guys there not really looking great for the playoffs.
I was expecting Nylander to do, in a top line role, probably a little more speed game. I thought he was going to do a little more than what he has, but this Leafs just the old hide and seek.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Other than that, any other big moments from that game you want to cover off?
I got a couple things that I wrote down here. When we got late into the third period, I noticed something that I see in minor hockey, and it was the guys just passing the puck to McDavid and kind of hoping he could make something happen. Like there was one shift, Braden Point had the puck in his own end and he had all kinds of time and he just made this little 2-foot pass just to get it to McDavid. And that's the kind of thing that my son's hockey, they got a couple of guys that can really wheel. And when it gets late into the game, you just kind of give them the puck and hope they can do something, which I never thought I'd see that at the pro level.
Yeah, it's almost why you kind of get too reliant on a great talent like that. It's almost why sometimes you see teams get better when they lose one of their great players like that. That's because everybody feels empowered or to step up or that they need to kind of pull their weight a little bit more. Not that I'm suggesting we take McDavid out of the game.
The only other thing was the power play. Just start shooting. This cross the crease and cross the seam stuff through 4 sticks. Like, it's not going to work here. Just start putting it on net.
Yeah, again, it's like when you have so much talent out there, I think they want to get too cute sometimes, and instead of just keeping it simple and just getting that traffic to the net, getting pucks on net. I thought your comment that you made in the last episode about Sorelli and that line being critical to kind of playing more of that grinder role. I thought their line was great.
Yeah, they did really.
They're obviously playing physical, but they're creating some offense as well and do a pretty good job of shutting down some of the big guns for the U.S. But
Yeah, like the U.S. after the Larkin goal, they didn't really have a legitimate scoring chance. Not that I can remember. I know Bennington had to make a few saves, but there was never, holy shit moment where I thought it was going to get out of hand. We just had no chances. It was a defensive masterpiece.
yeah, and I'm hoping if we see the rematch in the finals, it'll be a little more of an offensive game and playing it a little less safe.
Would you change anything as far as the lineup?
I would find a way to get Mitch less ice time and put somebody with McDavid that is going to, whether it's Marchand, whether it's somebody else, but that would be the shift I would make. I don't think it's a good combo right now, and they don't have enough time in this tournament to work it out. That you need that Zach Hyman type player with McDavid to help win those puck battles and get it back to him.
What about, there was a bit of buzz about throwing Aiden Hill in maybe for the Finland game. Would you mess with that, or would you just leave it?
I think I'd just leave it.
Yeah.
What about you?
I agree. Yeah, I think at this point it's pretty risky, right? Like, and say he does beat Finland, then what happens? Like, I don't know. I would probably just leave it. I don't think Binnington's been bad other than that first goal. And like I said, he saved us against Sweden. We could have easily lost that one.
And he's got a feel for it now. Like, he's been in the fire, where I think that's just a lot to bring, a goalie in against, come in cold in a moment like that. So
the only other thing I would do is I would maybe get a Seth Jarvis out of there and let Konechny have a go, because he is another guy that can absolutely fly. And it just seems like Jarvis is a little bit out of his depth here. That's just my opinion. Like, you hardly heard his name at all on Saturday.
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting substitution, but we'll see. I guess we're recording this here on Monday morning, so we're about 3 hours away from game time. So yeah, it's going to be a great day. We've got, basically, just to kind of set things up here, we've got Finland at 1. So right now the U.S. is guaranteed into the finals, regardless of what happens with them in Sweden. If Canada wins in regulation, they're guaranteed through. If they win in a shootout or overtime, that opens the door for Sweden. Whereas if Sweden was to win in regulation, then they would get in there. So Canada win in regulation would make the U.S.-Sweden game pretty much irrelevant. A shootout win or an overtime win would make me a little nervous for the game tonight.
I got a prediction for you. Canada's going to win in regulation, and then when it's a meaningless game tonight, Matthews and Nylander are both going to score goals tonight.
I like that. As far as bets go, we maybe have lost a little credibility here from our first episode. We both picked the Chiefs to win.
Yeah, I nailed it.
So we didn't exactly nail that one, and I think one of your sleepers for the Four Nations was Nylander to score the most goals, which made sense. Your argument for it was sound, but just hasn't played out that way.
Yeah, I should have known.
But I do like your angle. Yeah, if Canada wins in regulation, then let's look for big nights from Nylander and Matthews.
Hammer the Leafs, yeah.
So one other thing I wanted to chat with you about on this pod is kind of an interview I heard with John Cooper after the first Canada game. And he said Crosby's going to go down in history as the greatest Canadian hockey player or international hockey player. And I feel like we're uniquely positioned to have this debate here after we've just done a deep dive on the 87 Canada Cup and I'll look back at Gretzky's international career. And to be honest, when I heard that statement, I thought it was a little bit over the top, or maybe a little bit of recency bias there. Like, no way you're comparing Crosby to Gretzky. But actually, as I kind of went back and did a little more research on it, refreshed my memory on anything, it is quite a debate. They're pretty evenly matched.
Yeah, I was the same. I was like, there's no way. But then when you start breaking it down, and up until Saturday, he was 26-0 in a Canada shirt. He's won everything you could win as far as international, and I mean, 4 nations aside, see what happens there. But the stat that blew me away is in all of his international play, he's a plus 85. Like, you don't think of him as a defensive force, but just not allowing goals when he's on the ice and obviously contributing to many, many goals. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that stat. Plus 85. That is crazy. I think that is like the big differentiator between him and Gretzky is obviously Gretzky, you get the prolific offensive output, but you're not necessarily getting the two-way sort of physical element, the puck control element. Also, Crosby on the face-offs, probably a little bit of a advantage there.
And probably facing tougher competition now, too, I would think.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say because, I mean, skill level is hard when you compare eras. I'm sure, I mean, those Russian teams were pretty awesome back in the 80s and stuff like that. But it seems like everybody's good now. Like, they're, other than your cupcakes when you get your Kazakhstan or your Latvia or whoever.
Yeah, it's tough and you're comparing different eras, but to try to help, I kind of did a little bit of, I kind of did a little research on the, I guess their international careers, kind of going back to junior. So let me set this up and see if that helps influence your decision. So if we look at Gretzky, he played one World Juniors at the age of 16, led the tournament in scoring with 17 points in 6 games as a 16-year-old, but they only won bronze there. Crosby played in 2 World Juniors, won gold in both, I believe. No, sorry, Crosby played as a 16-year-old as well. They won a silver medal that year, and then in 2005, they won gold. That was the golden generation. That was when they had the lockout in the NHL. So they had Bergeron and Marchand and Phaneuf, and I kind of forget all the guys, but I had a picture at one point with that team, and I think Doughty was on that team. Probably you might give the edge. Interestingly enough, too, I was looking at how many of these international events each of them were captains. So Gretzky was not the captain, obviously, at 16. Brad McCrimmon, for a little trivia question there, was the captain when he played. When Crosby played at 16, Phaneuf was the captain, and then in 2005, Bergeron was the captain, but Crosby was a dominant player there. So you could probably give the edge to Crosby, or even call it even from a World Junior perspective, because if Gretzky would have played when he was 17, he probably would have led them to victory. So then you get, I think where it's tricky is you got Gretzky played in 4 Canada Cups. Crosby didn't have any. On the other hand, Gretzky didn't get a chance to play in the Olympics until he was pretty much at the end of his career. But Gretzky played in 4 Canada Cups. He was the scoring leader in all 4 of those tournaments, and they won 3. So a lot of this argument could come down to how much weight do you place on the Canada Cups versus some of the international tourneys that Crosby played in. But one thing that I thought was interesting is I would have assumed Gretzky was the captain for all of those Canada Cups. When I look back at Messier was the captain for 3 of them. He was only the only one he was a captain in was 87, and it was a rotating captaincy with him and Francis. So to me, that says something almost about when you're making this argument, the fact that they're picking Messier over him as the captain in those moments said something.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't know that.
But then Gretzky did go on to win one World Cup, which he was the captain at. He was 37 at the time. And then, of course, we know he played in Nagano at the Olympics, and Lindros was actually the captain there. Canada didn't even win a medal there. We know the heartbreaker in the shootout.
That's got to be one of the dumbest decisions of all time, right? Like, I know he's old, but you got the best player of all time sitting on the bench. You just leave him on the bench. It would be like, you remember when the Bulls were going for the championship and Michael Jordan hits the shot at the end? Can you imagine if they said, actually, Mike, you sit this one out. We're going to throw JoJo English in here for this last shot. What are you doing?
Yeah,
Anyway, sorry.
That's crazy. Yeah, that game might have been the biggest heartbreak that Canadian hockey fans have ever felt. That was the first Olympics that NHL players were able to play, and we didn't even win a medal. So
no.
So then switching gears to Crosby, aside from the World Juniors that I mentioned, he played in 2 Olympics, Vancouver and Sochi. He was actually not the captain in either of those. Niedermeyer was the captain in Vancouver, and Pronger was the captain in Sochi. Of course, in Vancouver, we got the golden goal. So we got Crosby, played great. He didn't have the offensive production that Gretzky had in those tournaments, but of course he impacted the game in a lot of other ways and probably scored the biggest goal in Canadian history. You could make an argument for the 87 goal, but I think winning Olympic gold in overtime, scoring that goal, pretty tough to top that, I would say. The other thing about Crosby, he kind of got robbed in a way because when the Olympics were in South Korea, the NHL didn't participate in it. And that was right in the sweet spot of his career. So he could have easily had another gold there. And then during the Beijing Olympics, that was the COVID year. Was there no hockey or just no NHL players in that? That I'm not sure. I don't even remember those Olympics. But yeah, so there's 2 more Olympics. So Crosby won 2 golds earlier in his career and then missed the Olympics twice. And he's going to get one more crack at it next year too. Yeah. Assuming he makes the team, which I would think he would. I think. So yeah, that's potential 5 Olympic medals he could have. It is a good argument. I don't know. What's your thoughts? Who do you got? Yeah, I guess I've went back and forth. So here's you could flip a coin almost, but I'm still leaning Gretzky a little bit. And for this reason is because in these big international games, goals are hard to come by. And you can find great 2-way players and guys to win faceoffs, but Gretzky to be able to generate offense at every level when goals are hard to come by. That's why I give the edge to Gretzky. Although I do think, obviously all-round player, probably Crosby impacts the game in more ways. But I think what Gretzky was able to bring was more irreplaceable than Crosby and just making everybody around him better. Now, having said that, if Crosby pulls this off, if Canada makes it to the finals here, I know it's only the Four Nations Cup, but this U.S. team is got to be one of the greatest opponents one of the greatest opponents Team Canada has ever faced. And if Crosby can play a significant role in leading them to victory here, I think the resume starts to top Gretzky. I feel like the resumes are pretty equal now, but if Crosby gets this, that's putting him over the edge, and then he's also got the opportunity to build on his legacy at the Olympics next year. So I think one thing I would give to Crosby, I'll throw it back to you, is I think Crosby's performing at a higher level in the late stages of his career than Gretzky did when he was around the same age. So what are your thoughts? I had the same idea. It's the ability to create the offense, and which also makes me lean Wayne. I think I agree that if they pull this off and he does win another Olympic medal, it's probably him. And it's too bad that he missed those other 2 Olympics, because then I don't even think it would be an argument if you've got 4 Olympic medals in the bag. And the fact he's even playing now, like they're saying he's basically playing with one good arm at the moment. I didn't know if you read any of that, but he's pretty banged up. I knew he was banged up going in, but I didn't hear exactly what the injury was. I don't think he left his mark on the game as much in the second game as game 2. Definitely not. In fact, he might have been partially the cause of the second U.S. goal, but hey, I don't
Oh,
want
he was 100% he was. And everyone's trying to rip Harley because he went off for a change there. You look ahead and Crosby's got the puck. You figure he's just going to fire it into the corner. I can go off for change. Instead, he put it right on the stick of U.S. defender. And we know what happened after that.
Yeah, yeah. So you're still you're still leaning Gretzky there.
I got Wayne right now, but we'll see what happens by the end of this week.
Yeah, I think I'm excited and nervous. Like, I think if Canada gets through today, that game on Thursday is going to be, awesome. I can't wait for it.
Do you know, is it in the final, is it continuous OT?
That's a good question. I don't want to, yeah.
End on 3-on-3. That would be pretty late.
No. Yeah, I hope you're right on that. That would not be a good way to end a great series like this. And then you could see it going into overtime too. The teams are so evenly matched.
The other thing we didn't mention yet is now we're on American soil too. So you got to go into the house of the enemy here if we get past today.
Yeah. And hopefully that's almost like a galvanizing effect sort of in us against the world. Kind of, I feel like the U.S. almost used that to their advantage with like the national anthem getting booed and sort of they're on,
They got to stop with the booing of the anthems. Like, just Bush League, whatever's going on is going on, but just show some class.
I agree. Yeah, I don't like that. It's just a level of respect for the players, and as if like it's not like Kachuk's sitting here pushing these tariffs on us and stuff like that. It's just we're not a political show, but yeah, I just think just for common decency, there's just a line you don't cross, and to me, booing another country's national anthem, it's not a good look for us.
No. I got a question for you. Do you think the Americans are going to have a surprise guest like we had at GSP? And if so, who do you think it's going to be?
Oh, that's a good question.
It's in Boston.
Yeah. Who are you thinking? Like a Tom, not a Brady.
That's what I was thinking either him or Gronk or fucking Edelman. Those guys get around to everything.
Brady would come across equally dorky as GSP. I mean, I love GSP. It's just I've always found him. There's something odd about him where he's like, one of the baddest men on the planet, and yet he still comes across a little bit goofy and dorky in his own way.
He looks like he should be in a Subaru commercial more than an Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah. So yeah, Brady's got that kind of squawky voice. He doesn't really. I'm not sure he knows much about hockey, so I'm not sure he'd be the best, but also like, didn't the Bruins bring in Conor McGregor to do like
That's right.
to their dressing room? I remember that being one of the most awkward things where he's like clearly knows nothing about hockey and he's trying to pump the guys up. And I think he walked all over the Bruins logo in the dressing room, which is a no-no.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, who knows? They may pull somebody out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who classic Boston sort of sports guy. Yeah, Gronk would be good. Big Papi, maybe.
Yeah.
Although he's probably not a big hockey fan either. But yeah, good call there. I'm sure they'll have somebody. I'll be interested to see if they boo the Canada national anthem or if they'll.
I'm sure they're gonna.
Yeah.
But we got to get there first.
Yeah. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. One last thing I wanted to mention is I stand corrected on the jerseys. I think in the last episode we were talking about how great the 87 jerseys were, and I was like, yeah, I don't love the new ones. Seeing them in action though, they might be my favorite of all time. I think I just saw a picture of Crosby wearing one off the ice with no equipment on, and it didn't look as good as seeing him on the ice with all the team and skating around with them on.
Yeah, I've turned around on too. They actually do look pretty sweet. I don't know if it's just like you said, seeing them in action, but they definitely pop. That's for sure.
Yeah, I actually love all the jerseys, and that was going to be one other thing I was going to mention is I feel like the production of this tournament has been awesome. Like when you see the sort of the lights that they got kind of with the team logos on the ice, and it seems like they've nailed it in terms of like creating this as an exciting event.
But why can't they do this for the NHL, right? Like put this kind of backing into it because everybody is so into this. And I know
Yeah.
it gets ramped up for the playoffs, but do this shit. Like people love this stuff.
Yeah, even just listening to some of the American media that normally doesn't follow hockey, listening to Dan Patrick show and different podcasts like that, they're this is getting people talking about the NHL now. It helps. There's no football and there's no basketball on, so you kind of have this one chance to kind of be on the center stage.
For once, they nailed the window with this thing. So just like promote the hell out of it. It's been so good, and I hope that they do this again.
Same here.
Definitely, it looks better, and I don't know why the NHL isn't doing this stuff either.
Well, maybe they'll follow suit, but they seem to have got it all right with this tournament. Just the players obviously are passionate about it and want it. The fans are loving it. We've got great rivalries, great hockey, the production, the jerseys. They've hit everything out of the park. So I think we're in for a great day of hockey. Hopefully, me wants the Sweden game to mean something tonight, just to make it interesting from an entertainment standpoint. But I think I'd rather just have the regulation win against Finland and then a nice relaxing evening and get ready for Thursday. But yeah, unfinished business, so we won't get ahead of ourselves. All right, Charlie. Well, you enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the game. Yeah, we'll see what happens, and then we'll talk later.
Sounds good, buddy.
Okay, bye for now.